Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us on the back of a thrilling victory in the Carabao Cup, which sees us for the second time on the trot come out as 6-0 winners, which is absolutely amazing. We're also going to talk a little bit tonight about the last two Premier League games against Bournemouth and Spurs, just because we didn't do post-game pods for those. We're not going to go into a huge amount of detail on either, but we are going to discuss some running themes and malarkey and stuff. And of course, we are live, so drop your comments in and we will come to them and we'll have a discussion about whatever you throw at us today. Tonight is your show, so please do let us know what you want to talk about. Let's see who we've got on tonight, though. We'll talk to Joe. Joe, my friend, how are you?
Hello, my friend. Yes, doing well. It's nice to be back on within 24 hours. Me and Dagan did the watch along yesterday, which was really good fun. Obviously, those two guys below me travelled all the way up to Yorkshire to watch the game. So fair play to them. But yeah, doing good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, mate, I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Yeah, mate, I'm doing well as well. Thank you for asking. Tired, but we move. But I can't imagine if I'm tired, how Andrew and Chloe must be feeling. Andrew, all the way up to South Yorkshire for you both yesterday. How are you feeling after a long away trip?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad at all. Only recently got back in the last kind of hour because we spent kind of like the first part of the morning up there. And yeah, and then travelled back and come and join yourselves on this very podcast.
Oh, fantastic! That's the smart way. That's what I'd do. I'd stay overnight because the days of being like Chloe and young and traveling and stuff they are far behind me. Chloe, you said you got in at 3:30 this morning. Today, has it been a struggle?
Um, ish. I normally work with my narcolepsy. I take my meds and then go to sleep. So I took them at about 4. So then I had to take my second dose about 8. So I wasn't like in the world until about 12 o'clock today. But you know what? I'm off, so it wasn't like too bad. I just I didn't even have to set an alarm. I just woke up when I woke up, had a bacon sandwich, and I've just been lounging around the house all day, to be honest. So not bad.
Chloe is living the dream. And Chloe, I'm going to stay with you because when we talk about the games, we're going to talk about Barnsley first, because I think let's put everyone in a good mood first. Hell of a game last night, Chloe. Absolutely, wonderful. I found it quite amusing that the Barnsley fans were chanting Premier League, you're having a laugh. Quickly got shushed by a certain Diego Gomez. I mean, tell us a little bit about his performance yesterday. Absolutely sensational.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the best performances I've ever seen of a Brighton player. His all-round game was good, but then to score not just like 2 or 3, but like 4 goals. I turned to one of my mates when he scored 2 goals, and I was like, "Well, he's on for a hattie." I wasn't really sort of seriously thinking he was actually going to score a hat trick, because obviously he's a midfielder. He sort of gets the occasional goals, but to get a hat trick and then to get the 4th in the second half as well, and they were all bloody good goals as well. I was shocked. I didn't quite realise how good the 3rd goal was in the stadium. I knew it was sort of a long-range effort, but I didn't sort of realise he hit it first time. And it was just like a brilliant strike, completely unsavable, and one hell of a performance from him. Yeah.
It certainly was. For me, it was the second one. It was the fact that he didn't break his stride as he hit the ball. I think just absolute class. But yeah, the third one, that was a tasty one. Andrew, a lot of people might be saying, well, I say a lot of people. Some people might sort of go, "Oh, but it's Barnsley." Surely it doesn't matter who the opposition is. All of the goals he scored yesterday were absolute screamers.
The one thing I will say is that yeah, no, it doesn't matter who the opposition is. You've still got to win. You've still got to win the game, regardless of whether they're League One, League Two, Championship. You've still got to win the game. And you know, like Chloe said, 4 wonderful goals by Diego, and then you've got Harry Howe, and you've got Iari getting in on it as well. So I think it was just I was quite disappointed by the turnout by the home fans. I really thought they were going to get behind their home team, but yeah, only having just under 8,000 in the stadium, and you could hear us as the away fans because it was just deafening at some point, throughout the game.
Yeah, I've just looked on FootMob. Apparently, it was 34% full, the ground. So yeah, really disappointing, especially if they are doing really well in League One. I think we were the first team that have beaten them at home this season. Obviously, the quality told in the end, but even so, yeah, disappointing turnout. Keeping it on Gomez, then Joe, asked to play in a slightly different role yesterday. When the formation came out, I was a bit sort of like, are we playing like a three in midfield and Welbeck's going to sort of be on the left with Watson on the right? But no, Gomez, was sort of tucking in, allowing Ferdy to sort of do the overlapping runs, which was really exciting. But it looks like Gomez could be quite handy there, perhaps.
Yeah, he's a player that has proven that he can play in all sorts of positions in the front line. Played in those sorts of positions for Inter Miami when he played there. Obviously, MLS is a very different kettle of fish to the Premier League, and Herzl probably felt that he could have that creative freedom against Barnsley and give him that role, allowing Ferdy to sort of overlap. And it was, a fantastic performance to score 4 goals. As the other guys have said, it's doesn't matter who you're playing against, to have the technical ability to do what he's done on 4 occasions is unreal. Obviously, the first goal was a lovely team move, and he was there to finish that off. And it's just great to see him getting in amongst the goals, and nobody would have ever expected him to get 4. So I'm so happy that he's doing so well, because he's just got a fantastic attitude. He's a guy that is completely different to a lot of the other South Americans we've had in the last few years, and just looks willing to help the team wherever he's needed. And I think he was quoted in Paraguayan media saying that he would play anywhere other than goalkeeper if the manager wanted him to. So I think that is the attitude you want from a player like him. And I think he's given Herzl the perfect answer as to why he should be starting on Saturday.
Yeah, 100%. I was just I was going to go on to that, but you said something there, Joe, about it doesn't matter, and Andrew said it as well. Glenn Murray once said that the goalposts don't move. Doesn't matter what level you're playing at, and it just so happened that Glenn Murray was the last player who scored 4 goals away from home against Wickham in 2009. And Michael in the comments has said, have so many brilliant goals been scored in the same game before? Well, it wasn't 5 or 4 or 6 goals, but I do remember one. Sam Baldock scored a quite tasty brace against Barnsley way back when. So that was nice. I saw those highlights yesterday before the game. So let's talk about the Herzl conundrum in midfield then. And we're going to, I suppose, go back to not just the Barnsley game, but also the last few games and talk about Carlos Balaba. He's been a bit underwhelming this season. I think that we can all be honest and say that he hasn't hit the heights we know he can. Young player, going to be inconsistent. It's part and parcel of being a young player. Of course, the interest by Manchester United probably hasn't helped Chloe. But Gomez, after that scintillating performance against Barnsley, does he start knocking on that door and start thinking, because I think Ayari is probably a bit of a shoe-in. Does Gomez start alongside Ayari, or do we still see Balaba, in your opinion?
I think it's difficult because I think Balaba and Gomez are like 2 completely different players, really. And obviously Balaba on his day is one of our best players, but unfortunately he really hasn't started the season strongly at all. I did think he was a bit better last night, but still probably one of the weaker players on the pitch. So yeah, I think Gomez absolutely has to start against Chelsea. Like, there is no question of that to me. But also, I don't know if Gruder is going to be fit to start. I noticed him limping when he came off against Spurs. And obviously he didn't feature last night, so maybe Gomez will start in that sort of position. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good thing about Gomez, as he has got that versatility in his locker. But as you said, that they are two very, very different players, so it would be a very, very different look at midfield. I mean, Andrew, do we have any other midfielders that are like Carlos Baleba? I mean, in my mind, Hinchelwood is probably the closest, maybe, but even then, they're not particularly similar.
I think what he's got to do is he's got to try and sort out the midfield, if because Baleba really isn't in the right place at the moment. Whether or not, like we've all been saying that the Manchester United thing, we will never know. But only playing one part of that game yesterday and then coming off, it just goes to show that I don't think he's carrying injury. Can't see it, but I just don't think I don't think he's in that. I just don't think he's in the right place at the moment. I think whatever the club are doing, they can only do so much. It's down to the player to make sure he's in the right headspace to be able to play these games. He might be fine to start with, but whatever's going on, he made a few little mistakes in yesterday's game. You could see that, and it was the right decision to change him and bring somebody else on. So we've got enough. We've got enough members of that squad to be able to come onto that pitch and make a difference. And it did show in parts of that game yesterday that and it just all depends on what he does on Saturday.
Yeah. It's, the thing about young players is that we say that the inconsistency, and I think he did make a mistake. Was it the lead up to the first goal? He made a mistake, but it just fell so fortuitously to us that Watson managed to sort of scrape it out. I mean, Joe, what have you made of Carlos Baleba's start to the season? Of course, it's really early doors. There's still a lot of football to be played, but Carlos Baleba, Brighton fans touting him in the summer for being £100 million player. You look like you'd be lucky to get 20 million at the moment.
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because he had disrupted pre-season with an injury. I think he looked. It was probably too early to tell, but what he did play in pre-season, I think he looked pretty good. So, I don't know now on this end of it what point you can blame that disrupted pre-season on. We're now almost 2 months into the season, and he's had a lot of football. So I think it is all a mental block on his part from the Manchester United links. And I think Andrew's right. It really does depend on this weekend. I think if he can't get himself up and motivated to come back to his best against Chelsea, he's not going to be motivated to come back to his best against anyone. That's going to be some battle in midfield. Baleba versus Caicedo. Obviously, we know the history with Caicedo with us. And obviously, we want to be on the laughing end of saying that Carlos Baleba is the player that we've been saying he is. There's still a player in there. You don't turn into a terrible player overnight. And it's, really important that we give him as much support as possible. As Andrew said, we can only do so much, and then hope he comes out the other end of it. If he doesn't, then you could be looking towards a January sale, which we obviously wouldn't want to do. But if he's not playing for the club, and he's not playing for the manager, what else can you do other than move on an unsettled player? I hope that's not the case. We don't know anything. Obviously, we're not behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on with him. But yeah, it's just really difficult because a good season for us really depends on a good season for Carlos Baleba. He is the engine for us, and part of that really strong spine that's obviously headed by Van Hecker in defence, and then you got Baleba, and then obviously Welbeck was the main guy up top, really, but he's not had a great start to the season either. But yeah, it's just annoying when you're so reliant on one player to have a good season, because it's worrying to say the least.
Yeah, I agreed. Michael's put in the comments he thinks that Fabian is managing his time. Yeah, I think you're probably right, Michael, managing his game time. I suppose just on the flip side, and probably the last thing I'll say about Baleba for now at least, is that if I'm Carlos Baleba and I do want to move to Manchester United, I'm going to try and convince Manchester United that I am worth every penny of that 100 million. And I know that's easier said than done, but again, on the flip side, if I'm a United fan or someone high up in United, I'm going to think, oh, his head's dropped because he couldn't get a move. I don't really know if I want that player. We all know what a toxic cesspit is Manchester United is at the moment. It makes me worry that, well, I say worry, once he's gone. But if he can't cope with not getting a move, how is he going to cope with Manchester United? Let's talk about Harry Howe, because I like Harry Howe. I think he's looked really good. And I genuinely believe if his name was Harry Haulinho and he was from some remote village in South America, he'd probably be on loan to Chelsea right now. But he's not. He's in our squad, and he's played in both our League Cup games. He scored his first senior goal last night. Really nice left-footed shot from the edge of the box. Really well taken, Chloe. A youngster with, a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, it was great to see him come on. I did think at one point he was going to come on at halftime, because I saw that he was warming up sort of on his own. But yeah, obviously when he came on, it was quite exciting to see him get some minutes, because he looks like he's going to be a really exciting prospect for us. And yeah, that was just a really well taken goal. Brilliant finish, and I was chuffed for him to get his first senior goal for us. And hopefully it's the first of many.
Yeah. Would you like to see him on the bench a bit more often, Chloe, in league games? Give us something different off the bench?
Definitely, I would like to see him come on occasionally. I do think you have to be quite careful with young players and managing their minutes, because obviously we've seen it before a few times with sort of academy products that haven't sort of had the careers that we would have expected, or at least not yet. So obviously it is important not to sort of overdo it. But I would, see him on the bench. Obviously, hopefully he will star in the next round of the cup, either off the bench or maybe even start. I don't know. Depends who we get, probably, apart from anything. How strong a team we start. But it'll be interesting to see how his Brighton career progresses.
It's nice to have a Sussex-born lad who's a striker. We seem to be very good at producing defenders. Your Dunks, your Websters, but actually having a forward out of Sussex is somewhat of a rarity. But yeah, I'm really excited by Harry Howe. I think he's got, hopefully, as you say, Chloe, a nice bright future. And of course, you don't want to rush him. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Joe, there was some lad, Victor Gyökeres. He played for us once or twice, and he was a bit rubbish. Do you remember him, Joe? Victor Gyökeres, Joe? Sorry.
That's all you're getting. You're just getting an exhale.
Let's move on then. Andrew, let's talk about Tommy Watson. Tommy Watson, absolutely excellent yesterday. Really sort of ran the show. He got his assists under his belt, looked to really be stringing things together. Another player, Andrew, that I'm really excited to see more of.
It'll be good to get him involved properly. He hasn't had that opportunity yet. There were a few odd mistakes from him, but I think that was either poor passing of the ball or the ball going over too quickly and him not being able to get hold of it. Overall, give him some time to kind of get in front of, get him involved with the first team a little bit more than what normal, because he's not really been involved with the first team as much as he would like. So, and let's see how he goes, because he's turning out to be a really, really good player, and he just needs more minutes. And get him involved in one of these big Premier League games and see how he goes. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all manager can do. Because I think he can do. I think he can do a little bit of damage, to be honest. Give him a chance.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And actually, that's now moving on to sort of like the wider scope of the last few games then, unless anyone has anything to add on Barnsley. No, I mean,
Just a good
Ayara scored
overall
as well.
performance. Yeah, just a good overall performance, and yeah, let's see who we get in the next round.
Can
Excellent.
I just say, I think it's really funny that they were singing Premier League, you're having a laugh, like 30 seconds in, and then we won 6-0.
Yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
songs like that when we sing them because it's like, come on, you're tempting fate.
Yeah.
And it was just really funny when they sang that, and then
When we were singing Europe again, LA last season against
oh god,
Wolves, and
yeah,
then we would
never
go and
again.
beat you 2-0.
Rookie
Goodness me.
mistake. And that was
I
that
just
the Seamas chance when he came through 1-on-1 and he yeah.
love it.
Go on, Jack.
Oh, I was just going to say, with regards to Finalysis, Diego Gomez was the first player from myself, anyway, to receive a full 100 rating. And I think you can't go far wrong with that at all.
No.
FOTMob
Yeah, I
rated
gave
him
him 100 as
9.9.
well.
Yeah, he was he was everywhere yesterday, wasn't he? He was excellent.
It really frustrated me that FOTMob rated him 9.9. Like, how could you not give 4 goals a 10 out of 10? Baffles me.
I'm just before one thing, just because I've seen another comment from Doom, and I've seen someone else comment this as well about poor Tariq Lamptey over in Italy tearing his ACL. I mean, that lad has just got the worst luck with injuries. I mean, I've sort of had my gripes and groans, but I really genuinely feel sorry for the lad because, I don't see how he comes back from all of this. So I wish him a speedy recovery. And I hope this isn't the last we see of Tariq Lamptey. And another lad out in ex-Brighton player out in Italy, Billy Gilmore, got his first club goal at the weekend. Came off a huge deflection, but he scored it eventually. I remember him, was it the Wolves game? He had like a couple of shots from distance and they all went agonisingly wide. But as a big fan of Wee Bill, yeah, that made me happy. I'm going to sort of tag this on, Joe, to the Tommy Watson talk. I'm also going to bring in Kaoru Mitoma. I think it would be fair to say, and please, anyone comments included, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason we've sort of stuttered at the start of this season is because of some of our big name players are out of form. Balaba, we talked about Danny Welbeck, Dunk, Van Hecke has been great in parts, and then mistakes in others. Mitoma has looked. I think sometimes teams are doubling up on him, and I think that does make it hard. But I think it was in the Spurs game. It was the defending was lackluster. He just looked very, 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 very tired. And this is the sort of situation I want to see Tommy Watson brought on. What have you made about Kaoru Mitoma, Joe? And is it time for Fabian to be a bit braver if Kaoru is struggling towards the end of a game?
Yeah, I think we've seen it with Kaoru before, haven't we? Where he's gotten so tired that the performances dip. And I think it's only a good thing that Tommy Watson got 3 assists yesterday. I think he got his first goal and maybe even another assist against Oxford as well. So he's definitely a player that can provide. And I think as well that obviously I know that I think he had a few injury struggles as well in pre-season, Tommy Watson. But had he have stayed at Sunderland, I think he would have been starting in the Premier League already. And as Andrew said, having the opportunity to cause a few problems. So I think, he needs to be braver in terms of bringing Tommy Watson onto the pitch. I mean, I think Kaoru needs to start against Chelsea. But having that bravery to bring a youngster on and to put the faith in them to come on and change the game. We've seen so many do it for us in the last few months. Even over last season, so many youngsters come on and change the game for us. So I think the proof is there that it can work. So you're right, Tom. Yeah, I think Hurstler does need to be braver.
And of course, Dagan said it really well. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because obviously, if you look back to the Manchester City game, he made 4 subs and it worked. And we went on to win. obviously against Spurs, we sort of made the subs that shut up shop, and it didn't quite work out that way. So let's touch briefly on the Spurs game. I don't want to give anyone any PTSD. Chloe, you were at the game, I believe. A frustrating watch. Another game where we go 2-0 up and concede late on, and it ends in a draw. What were your sort of overall feelings post game? I know it was obviously a few days ago now, but how did you feel when you were sort of leaving the ground?
It's weird because before the game, I would have taken a point, but when you're 2-0 up, you sort of do expect that you're going to win the game. And I was just a bit disappointed by the way we played, to be honest. The fact that we did shut up shop. I don't like it when teams do that. I especially don't like it when my team does that. I think attack is the best form of defense. And obviously we paid for for the way we did choose to play. And also what I found really frustrating was how after they scored, we seemed to immensely improve going forward and look like we actually wanted it again. Whereas before that, it just seemed like we were just defending. So, yeah, it would have been nice to continue for the third goal because after all, at half-time, we were only 1 goal up. That can change so quickly. So, yeah, slightly disappointed there. But, it's weird because neutrals I've spoken to about this game, like as a Chelsea fan at my work, and he's like, oh, point against Spurs. They're having a great start to the season. That's not bad at all. And I'm sort of there like, yeah, but we were 2-0 up. And so I think it's difficult sometimes to sort of keep things in perspective. But it is disappointing when obviously, hopefully, we could have won that game because we were 2-0 up quite early on.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Before the game, considering the context, I think Spurs, they conceded 1 or was it 0 away from home? And then, of course, we've gone and scored 2 quite early on. But going from 2-0 up to, draw is always going to be disappointing, I think. And as you say, Chloe, attack wins games. I mean, look at City. We went out attack, we won the game. We sit back against Spurs, we don't. But, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Andrew, again, in the Spurs game, Yankuba Minte scored his first goal of the season. He's looked a real bright spark, in my opinion, for the start of the season. Sort of really been one of the key players that has made us look exciting going forward. What did you make of Yankuba Minte scoring his first goal of the season?
I thought he was bad. I thought he was brilliant, to be honest. I think he took it so well, takes it down the keeper, pops in the back of the net. Now, he has his doubters. We all know that. And but he also, when he's good, he's good, and he loves to take people on. He loves to try and, when he's got that ball, it's almost like no one can stop him. And it's just sometimes it can be that final finish. He'll take it right to the byline, and he'll kind of, So he does give defenders a lot of problems, but we've just got to, see how he goes this season and see what he can do. That's all we can do. Behind the scenes, they know exactly what they're doing. So and they know how much trust they have in him. So if he can score goals like that, I'm hoping he's going to get many more throughout the season.
I think it was at the end of the season last season, he said he was disappointed with his goals and assists tally. And I just think that shows the mentality of the player. He's hungry. He wants more. And I think he's been really impressive in the start of the season. So let's hope that Yankuba Minte is in fine Vettel for the weekend. Joe, I'm going to talk about another one of our forward players now. And I'm going to be, and I'm sorry, everyone, I am going to be a bit negative. Jorginho Ruta, not a number 9, looked a bit lost against Spurs. Was that because of the opposition, or is that just simply because Ruta is not a striker?
Looked a bit lost, but let's not do down his involvement in getting us a second goal. His tenacity to win that ball back and to keep hassling the Spurs back line and to then release Yasin Yari on the edge of the box to have that finish was incredible. There was also a moment in the second half where he gets to the byline before the ball goes out and allows Yasin to have another shot on goal, which unfortunately goes wide. So if that goes in, we're talking about 2 assists for the lad. So or even 3 assists, because obviously he assisted the Yankuba Minter goal as well. So I think he's a fantastic player, and I do agree with you, Tom. He's not a number 9, and I think we get much more out of him when he has that freedom in that 10 role to go and disrupt a back line, or to use his physicality so well like he does, to pick the passes that he does, and but he's just such a fantastic player that Hertzler needs to find a way for him to get in the side. So if that's the way to get him in, I think we can't grumble too much, because I think there are still a lot of qualities that he can give us if he's playing in the 9. And if he can't do any worse than what Danny Welbeck's done so far this season. But I am itching to see Seamas up front with Jorginho Rutter behind him. I think that could be an incredible partnership. Both physical, both quick, both clinical. Do it, Hertzler. Do it.
Be 10% braver. And Chloe, I suppose that's my question to you then. So in regards to the striker position, would you rather play a sort of Danny Welbeck who looks like he's carrying around lead weights, or would you rather play Jorginho Rutter who works really hard and he leads the press from the front really well, but doesn't hold the ball up particularly well, seems to do his best work from a deeper position? Or do you play a young and inexperienced Seamas? What would Chloe Holt do?
See, I would be tempted to go with Seamas. I do worry that it's too early to start him, but why not? What have we got to lose? I think Welbeck should. That's sort of the option I'm disregarding straight away. He's just not been particularly good recently. No disrespect to him. He's obviously been a great player to us over the years, but he's just not looked up to his usual clinical self this season so far. So I definitely think it would be between Jorginho and Seamas. And I think it just depends. Obviously, Hertzler knows better than me whether Seamas is ready because he sees him in training. But just sort of based on what I've seen in the cup games and obviously when he came on, I don't see why not. Why not give him a shot? What's the worst that could happen? Even if you have to hook him off at half time, just give him a run out there, or at least bring him on, I think.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with what you and Joe said about Seamas there, because I just think he'll offer us a bit more of a focal point. And I think was it Bournemouth he came on again? It might have even been Spurs. I can't remember, but he did look a bit lightweight against Premier League defenders. But he's only gonna get better against Premier League defenders the more he plays. So yeah, I would like to see more of him. But of course, ultimately Hertzler is going to pick the team based on the opposition and pick the team based on who's working in training. And if he feels that Seamas isn't ready, there's, that we'll just have to bide our time, as we say. Let's just go Pozzi. If Jorginho starts, that makes Gruder a super sub. Will he be happy with that? I don't think so. I'm inclined to agree, Pozzi. Gruder was, however, once again a bit. I think he works better as a sub, a bit like Kazenga Lualua. But yeah, he as another player that just sort of really seemed to struggle against Spurs. But again, maybe I'm doing Gruder a disservice because of the opposition. So yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's really tough. We seem to, as I say, have a lot of players that are sort of playing within themselves at the moment, or playing perhaps a little bit sort of not at their 100% fitness or sharpness, and it's hurting us, which is going to lead fans to question what is going on. Let's go from front to back then, Andrew. Let's talk about the back line. 4 goals conceded in the last 2 Premier League games. If we go further even back than that, we've been conceding quite a number of goals this season. Lewis Dunk made a bit of a howler. He made an absolute howler against Bournemouth, which resulted in them getting a penalty. Is it time for Herzler to mix up the back line? Do we give Coppola a go or Boscagli? Again, I get it. Boscagli's only played in the cup games, but every time I see him, he just looks like a Rolls Royce of a centre back. Really composed, really, really composed. I really like the look of him, and I want to see more of him. So let's talk about the defence, Andrew. What are your views this season of what you've seen?
From what I saw yesterday, I think, to be honest, I think whichever way we look at it, Dunk is our captain, whichever way we look at it. But there are defensive mistakes happening, and we need to try and put a stop to it. How we go about that, reassuring up the defence, is one of the ways we do it. But who do we put in that defence? Do we keep it as the two in front of the keeper, Duncan Van Heck, and then change on either side? Fabian's the only one that can answer this. He's the only one that can have faith in what he's got. Donkey, yes, he is getting up, he is getting on, but he's Brighton, Brighton born, and and Van Heck, okay, he's made a mistake against Tottenham, you just put it to bed. I think whatever Fabian decides at the weekend, he's got to make sure that defence is solid, because you're playing up against the Chelsea side. A flick of a hat can turn the team upside down. We've got to have a solid defence and we've got to have a solid strike force, and that's the one thing that's the only way we're going to do something with that game.
Yeah, Chelsea are no laughing matter, are they? They're a team full of talent, many of whom we know very, very well, unfortunately. So, Joe, in regards to Lewis Dunk, I don't want to do the lad a disservice. I've watched the lad grow up from, with Dean to now. He's been a fantastic servant to the club. He is, our captain, as Andrew says. He is, and on his day, he can be one of the best defenders in the league. But he has, unfortunately, over the last sort of calendar year, sort of been a bit rusty at times, struggled, made a few mistakes, which always happens. And, I fully understand that when you're a defender and you make mistakes, ultimately they can often affect, your goal, your XG conceded because of where you play on the pitch. But I'm just wondering, with Coppola and, Boscagli, I mean, Boscagli, we shouldn't downtrod this. Boscagli, must have come to us thinking he was going to play football on a bit more regular terms than this. He's a fantastic player who's played in Europe, a decent enough level, really highly thought of, and he's so far done nothing in the league apart from warm our bench. Do we go back three? Do we play a different formation? How do we go about sort of stopping the goals, Joe? Because we're conceding quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, other than maybe in possession, that we've seen us transition into a back three. I think we've started with the back three under Fabian Herzler, so I don't think that that's going to be an option that he's going to go with at all. It's a very hard conversation to have about Lewis Dunk. He started the season, in my opinion, pretty well. Looked back to what we expect from him. And then obviously the Bournemouth mistake makes you think differently. But other than that, there's obviously been a few weird mishaps, like back passes and stuff, that haven't amounted to anything. So people brush that under the carpet. But yeah, I think if these mistakes keep happening, then Boscagli or Coppola needs to come in. Obviously, Coppola's been coming on as the insurance policy in the last few Premier League games, and obviously it didn't quite work against Spurs. But I think, as you say, he looks really composed when he does play, really comfortable with the ball at his feet. So that's a ready-made replacement right there, and I think him and Van Hecker together could be a really solid back four. As you say, no nonsense. JP's a little bit like that as well, no nonsense. And I think Coppola would get rid of the ball in moments where Dunkey would try and play out. and then put us in a rough spot. And then, as you say, like Buscagli, he's come in and he's done absolutely nothing for us in the Premier League yet. So, questions to be had as to why that's the case, whether we're still waiting to bed them in, but how long can you wait for until you make that decision to take your captain out, which is a very hard decision to make. Let's just say that. But yeah, if it carries on, something needs to change.
I think it was it last night? Yeah, it would have been last night. I think it was Buscagli or Coppola. I can't remember which. I think it was Buscagli. Played a really nice long ball up the top, seemingly just to sort of get rid of it. Simas closed the Barnsley player down, wins a throw in their half. You just sort of think, playing around at the back has its place, but sometimes you just got to, in the words of the grassroots, just got to hoof it up pitch. So yeah. It's an interesting conversation. Let's keep the conversation going then. Let's talk about the overall mood, shall we? Because we've had a few people in the comments talk about it. We know that it's happening on socials. We know it's happening on North Stand chat. Fans disgruntled with the start of our season. I think there's a couple of things we need to say in regards to this. Tony Bloom coming on the Brighton Hove Albion official podcast saying he wants silverware in Europe has obviously put people's expectations at a certain level. I think we've got to acknowledge that, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, people are expecting too much." But when your chairman comes out and says, "This is what I want," I think fans are going to respond to that in a really sort of excited way, going, "Oh my God, Tony's going for it. He's really going for it." But the opening part of our season has sort of failed to live up to perhaps fan expectation. Chloe, do you think that expectations sort of warranted? Do you think people are overreacting? What do you make of the sort of overall mood around the club at the moment?
I would say I have been disappointed so far, with the exception of probably the cup games and the City game. Just apart from anything, I just don't think the performances have been there. It's not even so much that we're not picking up points. It is that I sometimes feel like we're not playing as good as we did even last season. And I don't know the reasons for that. I do think some of it is not having Balaba up to his sort of former self. He was obviously such an important player for us last season. And I think there's a few other key players like Welbeck, Van Hecke, who obviously haven't sort of been their old selves either. So there's part of me which is a little bit concerned, but honestly, I just try and be positive. It's still very much early in the season. I've watched some other games and I don't think a lot of teams are playing that well yet. So hopefully we can sort of continue to grow. I think we've also played a couple of teams that are having great starts to the season, like Bournemouth and like Spurs. And obviously Everton, it was their first game at their brand new stadium. It's obviously a big day for them. So it is disappointing because obviously I think we won all of those games last season. Am I right in thinking that? Like the corresponding fixtures. Whereas obviously this year we've only got 5 points, which, is good enough to stay up, but not much else other than that. So I don't know. I think for me, I don't like to be too negative. I don't like to get on Hertzler's back and say it's his fault or anything like that. I'm very much in we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Take each game as it comes. And hopefully we can continue to build. A few players might find a bit of form and hopefully our season gets better. But obviously I completely understand, fans wanting more, seeing Palace winning a trophy. That hurt. That hurt a lot. And I've always said, I want a trophy. I want a trophy so bad. And then seeing them win that, it's like, I would give my kidney. I'd give both my kidneys for Brighton to win a trophy. Like, it's something that I really would love to see. But then I never thought I'd see Brighton in the Premier League when I was younger. So who's to say we can't win a trophy as well? Who's to say we can't get Europe again this year? I think it's very much early days. I think there's a lot of teams competing for it. Obviously, a lot with bigger budgets than us, particularly like wage bills. So I think, yeah, I'm just trying to stay positive. It's early days yet. Let's see how it goes. Keep the faith.
Well said, Chloe. Really well succinct. Very good. Joanna says, I would take 17th finish with a trophy win, a bit like Spurs. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? When, Spurs are back, they are playing a lot better than they did last year under Ange. Manchester United don't look as awful, still pretty awful, but not as awful. So teams are going to be sort of building up. Villa, who were great last year, are now looking pretty crap. I think you talk about games, Chloe. I think we're 10 points down on corresponding fixtures from last season, which is quite bonkers. If the fixtures had played out the same, we'd be joint top with Liverpool. So, well, no, we wouldn't. That's not how it works. That's not how math works, Tom. But yeah, it's been a disappointing season, and I think coming here, Dragon talks football. It's the manner in how we've been playing. I think apart from 30 minutes against City, it's hard to pinpoint a particular chunk of time where we've consistently played well over 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. We seem to be playing really well in, short little bursts, and then we go off the ball really, really rapidly. So Andrew, sort of like, what have you made of, like, not necessarily the results, but the performances? Because I think that's the sort of the crux for a lot of fans. They're just not seeing, I don't know, much cohesion in the squad.
I think the problem we have is that we always seem to start, or we have started, rather slowly, which then gives the opposition, who then start quicker than us, but then they don't do anything with it. We start slowly, and then suddenly we pick up, and then we create and we score, but then we go back to being slow again. There's no consistency with that, and trying to pinpoint why that happens, only the team can answer that. Even if they can answer that, I think it's just they seem to sit back on a 2-goal lead and then concede, and it's just or they try and see out the whole game on a 1-0 lead, and it's you can't do that in the Premier League. It's just impossible because there are teams out there that will come. Well, they will come and attack you, and they will come and score goals for fun, and we've seen it before. It's just every game that we all watch, you can see there's always a slight difference in the way we play to start with. We could come out really fast against Chelsea but get nothing out of it. But then we can come out really slow and get something out of it. Or it could be the other way. I don't think the only person that can really answer that is Fabian, even if he can. It just depends on, you would hope that the team are up for every game. It's just how how it plans out throughout the game is whether or not we can keep keep hold of the lead is our biggest problem at the moment. Whether you take a 1-goal lead or a 2-goal lead or even more, we just seem to go a little bit flat sometimes, and then they get back into the game. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that we can just hope the team improves.
The thing for me, Tom, is Fabian Hertz always talks about wanting his team to play with intensity and to play with courage. And I don't see, obviously that's his philosophy, right? So when you listen to your manager's philosophy and you want to see it on the pitch, there have been moments, absolutely, where we've played with courage and we've played with intensity, and that's been what has got us the goals. Obviously, we came out flying in the second half against Manchester City. We came out flying against Liverpool at the end of last season. We had a very, very good performance against Spurs at the end of the year as well, which is probably where I saw us perform the most consistently over a period of a game. But when you don't see that on the pitch, I think that's when fans maybe start to question, are you getting your message across? Because playing with courage and intensity isn't sitting back and defending a 2-0 lead. It isn't sitting back and inviting pressure and hoping that the chances pass them by and you come out with a narrow win and have those fine margins go your way. You need to play with courage and intensity to have those fine margins go your way. And if you're not seeing that, it's not going to happen. So that's the thing that really frustrates me.
Yeah, I mean, I got the Spurs the way that we were trying to play against Spurs, that we were trying to soak up pressure, hit them on the counter because Spurs were really open at the back. But the tactic there seemed to be pump long balls up into the wings and then not challenge for the second ball, which I don't get. You know, you pump it into Mitoma or into Minter, who are challenging for a header, but then there's no one there to collect the second ball. If you're going to play that way, you've got to have someone up there who's pushing with the winger who's going to scoop that second ball up, and then you can start your counter attack. It's a bit of a weird one, and then to continue doing that when it's not working, again, it's that Einstein thing of insanity, and repeating it and expecting a different result. I just want to come back to Phil's comment about O'Reilly, who obviously, surprisingly, almost out of the blue, left to go on loan to he who must not be named. No, he who must not be named too, because the other he who must not be named, I don't know where he is at the moment. Greece? In Greece? Sorry, he who must not be named. Matt O'Reilly has gone to the other he who must not be named. And apparently he had a bit of a falling out with Fabian. Now, Chloe, we know how much you like Matt O'Reilly. I don't know how much you've gotten to talk about how disappointed you are that his lovely little face isn't in our squad anymore. But rumours of him falling out with Fabian are doing the rounds in French media. What have you made of that and the impact that might be having on the atmosphere in the locker room?
Honestly, it kind of pissed me off a bit. I can't stand it when these players are constantly chatting to the media about stuff. It annoyed me a little bit in the summer when there was constantly stories about him. It's like, shut up and get on with it, please. Like, if you're going to move on. But I just, it put me off him a little bit. And obviously, from a football's perspective, I can totally understand him going. The fact that it's a loan move is a little bit strange to me, and the fact that it's to Marseille, because I don't like them. But yeah, it just from a football perspective, he plays in a position that we're pretty well stacked in, and it was a bit strange that he was so heavily featured, both in the preseason and then obviously he started a couple of games at the start of the season, and then he went on deadline day. I remember seeing that at 3 a.m. on the 1st of September and being like, seriously? I'd just gotten used to the idea that he was actually going to stay, and now he's going. Anyway, I was disappointed, but I can understand why. I think his Brighton career might have been completely different if that horrible bloke from Crawley hadn't have injured him. Maybe he would have hit the ground running a bit sooner and really solidified himself as part of our team. But unfortunately, that just wasn't the way it worked. So a bit disappointed to see him go. But it was probably for the best.
Agreed. Yeah, and if you've had an argument with your coach about where you're playing, probably best to move for both parties. Phil's put in the comments, does anyone know why we got O'Reilly in the first place? Because he was potentially surplus to requirements. Apologies. My guess, Phil, is that Tony Bloom was hoping last season would have been a European campaign charge. And this season we'll be playing in Europe, thus needing a bigger squad to compete across the two competitions. And obviously we didn't. That's just a complete hazard of a guess. but that's probably my reasoning behind it. Oh, here's one again for you, Chloe. Mopay or O'Reilly? Ooh. I'm going to go with Neil.
Mopay is my all-time favourite Brighton player. So him, but like, yeah, it's got to be Mopay. I will say though, I think Jorginho, if he plays his cards right, he could become my all-time favourite Brighton player. Just sort of depends what he does.
Play your cards right, Georgie.
Basically, as long as he doesn't snake us for Chelsea, he'll be all right.
Georgie is just such a vibe. I'm here for Georgie, and I like it when Carlos Balaba's happy as well. He's always fun, good laugh on the camera. Luke Links is in the chat. Hey Luke, hope you're doing good, buddy. Good to see you in the chat. Drop us your thoughts on the season so far, mate. Would love to get your input there. Andrew, I had a question for you, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, here we go. Jason in the comments, I think a couple of times now, has said that we need a striker. I know we've sort of already talked about the striker options. In January, would you like us to bring in perhaps someone who's more experienced than Seamas, but not as experienced as Welbeck, to put it politely?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's hard. To be honest, we've got a strike force there. It's just, I think Welbeck is, I don't know, he's not at his best right now. Jorginho, he's not really, well, he is a striker, but he's not a striker, you know what I mean? He kind of sits behind the striker. But, I don't know, you've got two young 18-year-olds there that we've brought in. And, Seamas, he's got quality, but it's just, I'd like to see Seamas. I'd like to see any of the new strikers that we've got. I think I'd love to see them playing to see how they would get on in these big games. And unless Fabian takes that situation seriously and actually puts them in there and says, right, get on with it, I want to see how you play, we're never going to know, are we, to be perfectly honest? They just seem to be stalling it every time. And then they put them into the cup games and they seem to turn them upside down. So there's obviously a good enough reason there to play them. And it's just really frustrating that, that they're not. But I think at the moment, we just need to deal with the strike force we've got, make sure they're all kept fit and healthy, and just put them in and just play them, see what they can do.
Yeah, again, be 10% braver, Fabian. Give us Babis, give us Seamas. Going to jump around a little bit here, Joe, because I've just seen a comment from Joanna, and this is something that's been playing on my mind as well. Going back to Fabian, you're talking about him saying about he wants intensity, he wants bravery, and we aren't always seeing that on the pitch. I've questioned this. His post-match interviews are a bit weird. In games where we've played pretty badly, he goes and says we've been the better team and deserve to win. Is he saying that just to sort of, big up the players and not sort of come down too hard? Or is he seeing something that I'm not?
Yeah. I think there is an element of protecting your players. Oh, something's happened there. Goodness me. Hold on. There we go. That threw me off. Sorry, audio listeners. You had no idea what just happened. So all I will say is Tom took his top off and ran around naked everywhere. So tune in to the Albion Obsessed YouTube channel to see that. Tom, you're going to have to do that now, I'm afraid. Otherwise, it's clickbait.
I'm a respected member of the teaching community. I will lose my license.
All right, Andrew did it then. Fine. I think it's an element of taking that pressure off your players and maybe trying to believe something that isn't true in hope that it comes true next week, I guess. But yeah, it is quite concerning when your manager isn't sort of being as open and honest as you would want him to be. I think.
Sorry, can I just jump in, Joe? I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but this is just coming to my mind. If I don't say it now, I'm going to forget it.
Talking and about being open... is ADHD.
Yeah. Welcome to Neurodivergent Obsessed. Talking of open and honesty, he who should not be named too I don't know if anyone saw it. His comments about O'Reilly saying that he was slow. He was slow in thought and he was slow in body. And I thought
That's brutal.
he's just played a game for you, and you've just come out and said he's slow. But I'm not advocating for that level of honesty, but a bit more than just, oh yeah, we deserve to win when you've played Bournemouth and you turned up for 10 minutes. That'd be nice.
Yeah, and I think a lot of things went wrong in the Bournemouth game, which took the momentum away from us. I think there were, again, only moments where we played well. But yeah, I guess it's just trying to convince yourself that you're doing a better job than what you are. So yeah, we need more Fabian, I'm afraid.
Fair. We've just hit the hour mark. And of course, open forum if anyone wants to say anything else and wants to get anything else off their chest about the season, about particular games or players, feel free.
I would like to retract my comment about Tom running around naked. That was not true. That was completely fabricated. And Tom is definitely a well-respected member of the teaching community and would never do that. I'm just avoiding a lawsuit, basically.
Thank you for that, Joe. The DFE will be very happy. Let's talk about something that's rather exciting, and I don't like doing the sort of like the shameless self-promotions, but this is big news for us at Albion Obsessed. We have been named as a finalist in the Football Content Awards. And, that's down to the amazing hard work of everyone here at Albion Obsessed, but we also couldn't do this without you, the listeners. So we are incredibly humbled by the fact that we've even been considered for this. But voting is now open. So, if you are so inclined and you enjoy what you see and what you hear on the Albion Obsessed, please do consider giving us your vote for the best Premier League podcast, because that'd be nice. We're here for the vibes. We're here for the fun. We're not here for the seriousness. We're quite silly and daft, really, but we do enjoy it and we do love it. And again, we're just so humbled and happy to do it. And that's all I've got to say on that. I just want to say, well done, team. Thank you, listeners and viewers. And if you haven't already, please do consider voting us. That's the end of my shameless plug.
And I give a shameless plug. Well, it's not overly shameless because it's promoting people that do extremely good work within the Brighton Hove Albion community. Dogma, their new issues for this season are now available to purchase. It is priced at $19.01, which always tickles me. But one gripe I do have with them is that the shipping takes it over $19.01, so I can't see $19.01 on my bank statement. I saw that last time, and it very much, I really enjoyed it. But there's a link in the description. Go and purchase all of that good stuff, because they do amazing write-ups from all different angles of the Brighton community as a whole, as a city, and they're a massive credit to our community. So go and support them, please.
Yeah, Dogma are great. We've had the guys from Dogma on the podcast before. Great guys. The content is brilliant. Joe, you've done some work with them. You've written for them. I've written for them. And some brilliant people from the Brighton and Hove Albion community have written for them as well. So please, do consider it. I mean, the value is absolutely fantastic, and the artwork you get, the stickers, it's well worth it. So yeah, definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already. Phil has just put in the comments, is there an Albion Legends charity match this weekend in New Haven, or did I imagine that? Over to our New Haven correspondent. No,
Tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed, yeah. So there you go. But no, thank you so much to Joe, Andrew, and Chloe for joining me this evening, for your views. And I know Chloe and Andrew, you probably are looking forward to going to bed after your travels to South Yorkshire. You poor things having to go there. And thank you, of course, viewers and listeners, for joining us on this podcast. As I say, please like, share, and subscribe for more content if you haven't done so already. Please also consider voting for us in the in what I've just said, and because it's just bonkers. We've been doing this for how many years, Joe? How many years we've been doing this?
This is our 5th season, but our 4th year, and so it's been incredible. And I just want to go off the back of what you were saying, Tom. Just a massive thank you to everybody who tunes in to this podcast. When I started it, and I think we had like 2 subscribers. Tom, I think you're actually one of them, so thank you for that. And Chloe, you've been believing in this project since the 3rd episode as well. And then Andrew, you've always been so supportive of everything we're trying to achieve at Albion Obsessed. And it's just a lovely and humbling thing to be even considered for that award. And it's a big deal. It's like our Oscars. And if we win, I'll make a lovely speech.
Yeah, and it's one of those things as well. We're like some quirky little independent film, and we're up against some pretty big hitters. So as I say, we're in this for the vibes, and as if you're a long-time viewer of the podcast, you know that we don't take things too seriously. But no, we appreciate it all the same. But anyway, that's enough.
Can I just say one other thing?
Fire away.
Can I say well done to everybody that went up to Barnsley yesterday. Brilliant turnout for the club. And yeah, I think the noise we made, clearly out took Barnsley. But yeah, well done to everybody. And just let's see what we can do with Chelsea, and let's see if we can make even more noise than we made at Barnsley. See if we can top it. So yeah, well done, everyone.
I totally forgot to talk about Chelsea. See, that's the sort of amazing professionalism you get on the Albion Obsessed podcast. Okay, real quick. Guess who's back in goal at the weekend because they didn't play against their game last night?
Is it Robert Sanchez?
Big Bob. I saw a thing earlier saying he can play at the weekend because he missed the game. But I want to clarify that because I was also under the impression that it had to be in the same competition. So maybe I got everyone's hopes up. Oh, well. Just before we go off then, guys, can we get a score prediction, please? Joe, I'm going to start with you. Score prediction against the Chelsea, please.
Chelsea 0, Brighton and Hove Albion 74. Thank you very much. Moving on.
Okay, then. And 73 of them coming from Jason Steele, who's going to be playing as a striker.
Absolutely. No, a serious prediction. I'm going to go... I think João Pedro is going to score against us, which is not going to be fun. I'll go 2-1 to the good guys because why not be positive, eh?
Okay, I like it. Chloe, what's your score prediction?
I'm going to go 3-1 to the Albion.
Oh, I like it. And Andrew?
Oh, yes. Well, if we win it, I'll be even happier because I'll be there. But it's because it's an away game against the Blues. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for 2-2, and I'm going to say if Gomez plays, he's going to get both.
Oh, I like that. Continue on. I'm going to say something. If it ever happened under Chrissy Houghton, I would have never believed you. I hope I think we're going to concede, and I hope we concede first because I have more faith that we'll be able to bring it back once we've conceded than hang on.
Fair point.
I'm going to go 2-1 to the Albion, without both of Albion's goals coming in late in the second half, a la City, with substitute appearances from Diego Gomez, who for some reason won't start. He'll score one. And then Harry Howell. No, not Harry Howell. I'll go with... let's go with Seamas coming from the bench to score and prove he's better than João Pedro. That'd be nice. But yeah, let's just hope for the best, shall we, everybody? And then, as many people have said in the comments tonight, Chloe, you've said it. Andrew, you've said it. Let's keep the faith. Still very early in the season, so let's not get too grumpy. So all that leaves me to say is, wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we'll see you again soon. Take care.